Hey everybody, just got back from the third stop on the MLF Pro Circuit on Lake Murray in South Carolina. Had a decent week, ended up finishing 53rd. Um, let's do a little rundown of practice and how the tournament went for me. Um, Going into the tournament, some of the research I had done, I figured there'd be a few things going on. Actually, maybe possibly three things going on. First would be a shad spawn, herring spawn first thing in the morning. Secondly, I figured there would still be some fish spawning, actively spawning. And third, maybe a bluegill spawn. That really didn't transpire yet, at least not that I found down there. So anyway, the first day of practice, the first morning, I was trying to find a shad spawn going on. So I was running a bunch of different points, um, roughly mid-lake and up a little bit towards the river. Had a decent morning, caught 12, 13 pounds, you know, within the first hour and a half in the morning, mostly on a spinnerbait and a jerk bait. And then about 10 o'clock, I ran down to the lower end of the lake looking for spawning fish, and found a number of fish spawning. Um, and so, the end of the day, I thought I could have had a pretty decent bag. So second morning of practice, kind of the same program. Found a few places with a shad spawn going on, and then same thing, ran down the lower end of the lake looking for spawning fish. So kind of had a 1-2 punch going. Um, you know, for my day one, I thought I'll start on the shad herring spawn first thing, and then from there transition to fishing for spawning fish. And hopefully catch 17, 18 pounds a day. I thought that'd be a pretty good bag, and very capable bag, to be able to do well in the tournament. So on day one, I was I think boat 97, I think. So, didn't have necessarily a great boat draw, but it wasn't horrible either. Ran to my first spot. There wasn't anybody there. That was great. And I'm fishing for about 10 minutes, and then I see some surface activity. Pick up my spinner bait, and I catch like 3 in the first 20 minutes. One decent one, then just a couple just keepers. From there, I just slid in around the point into the pocket. I caught one off a dock. It was probably spawning on the end of the dock. And then from there, I started running down the lake. So in practice, if I either saw the fish spawning in practice, or I thought it was a good fish, I marked it with a red dot. If I thought it was a smaller fish or whatever, I marked it with a green dot. So I started running all my red dots, and I mean, I had probably 30 or 40 red dots, that I knew were anywhere from 3 to 5 pounds. They're just good quality fish. And I started running all my red dots, and almost every one of them was gone. So I ended up getting all the way down by the dam. I had a couple key stretches down there that I knew I needed to hit, regardless, because there were some big ones there. I had one stretch of 3 docks. Got down there, those fish were all gone. I slid around a little point, going down to the next dock, and I skipped my wacky worm up there. I see a good fish come up and eat it, set the hook, I kind of roll them to the surface, and it comes off. So a little disappointing, but I was able to go around the other side of the dock, and I was able to sight fish him, and caught one of my better ones on that dock. I went a little bit further into the creek, saw another one on bed. I couldn't get the bite. finally gave up on it because he just seemed kind of got disinterested. So I picked up my power pole, spun the boat around, and on Lake Murray, at least I'll kind of go into what I was looking for in the spawning fish. A lot of the docks on Lake Murray will have wooden walkways that have posts on them, and then where the posts stop, a lot of them have like a metal walkway or something that is connected to a floating dock. And a lot of those fish were spawning, either around the wooden poles that are in the water or at the end of that wooden pole walkway. It was just something I was kind of looking for that maybe a lot of other anglers would miss. Because you can just go down the bank and you can see a spawner here, a spawner there, but I wanted to try to find something that maybe everybody else wouldn't find. So anyways, I gave up on that fish, picked my power poles up, spun the boat around, and I just happened to pick up my swim bait and flip it just right off the front of the boat around that floating dock, and I had one like torpedo out from underneath the dock and eats a swim bait, and I hook him for about 2 seconds and it comes off. And so that was a little disappointing. I really wasn't expecting that bite. Just kind of happened, but it's unfortunate that I wasn't able to put that one in the boat. From there, I ran a bunch of other places where I saw big ones. They were almost all gone. There's a few males left. Didn't see any of the females. Then right at the end of the day, I had a bank up by Takeoff that I had a big one eat my swim bait in practice. So I ran up there, and right at the end of the day, I get right to my waypoint, throw the swim bait out there, and I end up catching it. That's probably another one's probably a little over 4 pounds. So end of the day with 14.2, I was in 61st, I believe. So I mean, this lake has just got them. I mean, it was a fun lake, got a lot of nice quality fish. But after the grind I had on day one, because it was a grind, I mean, had all my fish still been there, it'd been a lot easier. But since they were gone, my gut was telling me that I needed to do something different on day two. So, I knew a couple friends had caught them pretty good on topwater the first day. So on day two, made a few adjustments, and I thought, well, I'll go throw topwater on some of these flat points. That's kind of a deal they get on post spawn, to get on flat points. A lot of the shad will spawn on these flat points. So I never got on that topwater bite in practice, but just something that I'm comfortable doing running in the tournament. So that's kind of going to be my game plan. And going back, it was beautiful during practice, and then the first morning of our tournament, we had a cold front come through, and it was about 34 degrees when we took off on day one. So on day two, it wasn't quite as cold. It was about 38 to 40 when we took off. And I thought, well, I'll run back to where I started day one on that point. And I get there, and I'm there for like 10 minutes. I see zero schooling activity. So my gut told me that something had changed a little bit. So I fish around there for a little bit. Nothing with my spinnerbait and my topwater. And so I picked up a double fluke rig. I throw out there, and I get a bite, and I break it off. In years past, I had always, on my spinning reels, almost exclusively, I throw braid to a fluorocarbon leader. And for years, I tied the double uni knot. It had served me well over the years, but I have broke off some key fish over the years with that double uni knot. So I've been experimenting with some different knots, the reverse Albright and the FG. And I'm not certain if I didn't tie the knot on that double fluke rig right, or what happened. I mean, when I pulled it tight, you know, cinched down, it felt tight. But anyways, I broke that fish off. So I was a little irked about that. So I sit down and retie another double fluke rig. It takes like 10 minutes to tie. And stand up, and either A, I mistied it again, or B, when I cut the tag ends off, I nicked the main line. I stand up and make one cast, and there goes my double fluke rig. Whew, about 50 yards that way. So I sat down again, tied up a third double fluke rig, and I finally saw some schooling activity throw out there, and you know, I get a bite, and I set the hook, and I don't think I got a good hook in him, and it comes off. So here we are on day 2. You know, the morning bite is really key when the shad spawn going on. Here I've blown 2 opportunities at good fish. You know, and these are the things that you don't see in the fish catch video that I put out yesterday. You know, just how close, or you know, the train came to derailing, because I was pretty upset with myself and frustrated. You know, so I thought, well, I'll just go hit some of my other points I was going to fish, go to the next point, catch a non-keeper, go to the point after that. They come up schooling, but they were just a little too far to cast to. They went back down. Came back down past where I started, fished 2 or 3 points there, no bites. So at this point, you know, here I am, you know, hour and a half into the morning, and I have nothing. So, you know, fishing is a game of decision making. And I told my marshal, I was like, you know, I'm going to go back to where I started. I was like, I know there's quite a few fish on this point. I'm going to throw a Carolina rig around a little bit. You know, it's not something I throw in practice, but it's always something I have in my boat, usually in my box. I've saved myself a lot of times over the year with a Carolina rig. So I go back there, and like the second cast I catch a keeper, 5th cast I catch another keeper, and 20 minutes later I catch like 2 more just keepers. So I'm thinking, okay, I can roll with this, you know. Start running down the lake, stop on the next point. I catch like a 2 1/4, and then another one that gave me my 5th fish. Then I catch another one that, you know, probably culled just a little bit. No more bites. Run a couple more points. I catch like a 3-pounder, and I catch like 3 decent ones on day 2, but I had some camera issues, so I didn't get any of those good ones that I caught on day 2. So then run a few more points, catch another one. It's around 3 pounds. So I've got 3 decent fish, and then 2, you know, 14.5 inchers. It's like at 11:30, so I've got plenty of time, you know, catch, you know, 2 more good ones, and I'll be sitting pretty good. So I started working my way down the lake even further, and you know, all these points that I was fishing were, you know, kind of, you know, rocky points, gravel, you know, hard bottom, and they were up shallow. You know, these fish were in like 2.5, 3 foot of water. So keep on running down the lake, and I throw up on this point, and I get hung up. And so, you know, I'm trolling up there to get it out, and I look down in the water, and there are like 40 or 50 3 and 4 pounders just swimming around everywhere. And I was like, oh my goodness. And my marshal's like, what? And I was like, dude, stand up and look in the water. and he saw them, and it was just, it looked like smallmouth Roman if you've ever been up north fishing. You know, when it gets sunny out, you know, they get up shallow water, and anyways, I couldn't make any of them bite, which was really frustrating. So there wasn't any wind, and it was bluebird at the time. So from there, I head to the other side of the lake, and you know, I stop on a point, you know, catch one, culls just a little bit. Stop on another point, catch one, culls just a little bit. And you know, time's just ticking away. So I thought, man, I'm gonna run back to my starting hole again. So I run back up there, fish around for about 20 minutes, no bites, and I just happened to notice, you know, a few clouds started rolling in. The wind just picked up just a little bit, and you know, I had about 40 minutes left to fish on day 2. And in the back of my mind, all I can think about is that point with all those nice quality fish on them. So I told my marshal, you know, granted this point from where I'm at is about 10 miles away. So, you know, 10 miles down, 10 miles back, you know, there's 20 minutes. So I'm going to have less than probably 20 minutes to fish. So I run down there, I throw my double fluke rig around, no bites, throw my top water around, no bites. And I just happen to look down and I see my wacky rig sitting there. And I pick it up, throw it out there like first cast, and I catch like a 3.5 pounder. So get that in the boat, and you know, I had about 5 more minutes left to fish. Never got any more bites, so ran back to take off, and you know, weighed in. I ended up weighing in 14.4, which moved me up to 53rd. I thought I was going to make the cut, but you know, last 3 or 4 anglers, you know, all had pretty decent days, and I ended up missing the cut by 5 ounces, which kind of stings. But either way, it was you know, a good tournament. You know, just going back to you know, decision making. You know, I think back and a couple things. You know, had I not went back to where I started and pulled out that Carolina rig, what would my day look like? I don't know, but you know, I was pretty spun out at that time and would have gotten worse, probably so. You know, and the second thing is you know, had I not got hung up on that one point and went up there and saw those fish, would I even went back to that point? And you know, I can definitely say no, I would not have. So you know, I had a few fortunate things happen. You know, that you know, I made a good decision, went back to my starting point, and threw the Carolina rig. You know, it's fortunate that I got a bite pretty quickly doing it. And you know, thirdly, you know, running back to the point late in the day where I saw those, you know, good Lord just blessed me on that spot for sure. But you know, I can't stress enough to, you know, follow your gut when you're fishing. You know, had I mean, could I have went out and caught, you know, 15, 16 pounds doing what I did the first day? It's possible, but I didn't think it was very probable. You know, with just so many of those fish leaving, it didn't feel right to me. So, you know, I kind of rolled with a new game plan, and you know, I can't tell you how many times now that I've done this in tournament fishing. Just kind of scrapped what I was doing, and the vast majority of the time I have done better. You know, and obviously, you know, I never know what could have been had I done what, but you know, my results when I've done that have, you know, I think have been positive. So never be afraid to change what you're doing or where you're doing it. You know, if something looks good, go fish it. You know, if you know, then just kind of roll with it. You know, when I first started out on the tour, you know, having to practice during an event kind of scared me a little bit. Um, and I always wanted, well, I know there's fish in this pocket, so let's go fish over here or whatever. I was just afraid to run new water, and and now, I think this is my 13th year on tour. I would say at least 50 to 60% of my day is fishing new water, in practice or in the tournament. Especially now since we only have 2 days of practice. I mean, it's hard to cover, a decent sized lake in 2 days. I mean, it's just impossible, especially when you got different, spawning, post spawn, there's just a lot of different things going on. So, it's just very important to practice, during your tournament day. Like I say, going back to the 4 baits I was using, a spinner bait. This is a War Eagle half ounce. It's a Screaming Eagle. It's a little more compact. It has smaller blades, which I like for the shad spawn. I caught one of my weigh-in fish, and I lost a good one on a swim bait. I like to throw. Let's see, I don't know what my wacky. Oh, there it is. Senko on my wacky rig, and then a Zoom Speed Crawl on my Carolina rig. The Speed Crawl small, and I used to Carolina rig a brush hog or a baby brush hog a lot. And anyways, I don't know when I started throwing the Speed Crawl, but I mean, I've caught a lot of fish on it. It gets bites, and I've caught some really nice ones on it too. So that's kind of usually my go-to for that. So those are primarily my the 4 baits I used. The spinner bait, I was throwing it on a Denali lithium frog rod, I believe. I had that on. The swim bait was thrown on a Denali slop rod. Wacky rigs, Denali 7-foot medium, and 7-foot heavy lithium Denali on the Carolina rig. Overall, had a great week. The 2 other guys I stay with, we usually rent a house. It was a little different this time. The place we rented, the guy actually stayed there, but he cooked us dinner every night, so it was kind of like a bed and dinner instead of a bed and breakfast. But his name is Kevin Robinson. He was right, we were about 2 miles from where we launched. Worked out fantastic. Thanks, Kevin, for the great meals all week. Other than that, now we've got a couple-week break for Lake Eufaula in Alabama. I spent a couple days down there idling around looking for brush piles. A lot of it's going to be, there definitely will be an offshore bite when we get there. But a lot of it is water level dependent. How much of a shallow water bite there will be, because I mean, they got a bunch of rain down there, I think yesterday, so I know the lake's come up, but with a couple weeks between now and then, let's have to keep an eye on the water level, just to kind of see, because if the water stays up, you can probably fish shallow and catch pretty good bags. But my plan probably there is to fish offshore, fish and brush. So anyway, love going to Lake Murray. That was the first time I've ever been there. Love to go back. It was just a fun lake, pretty lake, and just it was very healthy fishery, I thought. And anyway, had a good finish. Moved up a little bit more in the points. So we'll just keep on trucking along. If you have any questions, drop question below. Hit the subscribe if you haven't already, and I appreciate all your support. Talk to you later.